Part 1. 3 Categories of Relationships. When you think of relationships, my guess is that you immediately think of horizontal relationships with other people. That is where so much of our blessings and brokenness get played out. But horizontal relationships are actually a third category of relationships shaped by 2 preceding categories. We can call these vertical and internal. Our relationship with others is influenced by, first, our relationship to God, vertical, and second, our relationship to ourselves, internal. These 2 relationships are the real beginning. Oftentimes, the woes we contribute to our horizontal relationships stem from distortions in how we relate to God and ourselves. So, before we get into the details of our horizontal relationships, we need to start there. Vertical, our relationship to God. The fundamental fact in our relationship to God is that we are made by Him and for Him. In truth, this is also the case for everything in existence. Everything exists because of God and, ultimately, for His purposes. In this light, all of creation may be considered relational, connected to God the Creator, who is Himself relational in His existence as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And if all creation is relational, that is certainly true for every human, which means that every human has a relationship with God. It's what it means to be human. We are God's creatures. This is foundational to who we are, and it's our most important relationship. But immediately, we are confronted with the inescapable reality that every human's relationship with God has been broken because of our sin. Plagued by the fall of our original parents and following in their rebellion with our own particular sins, we have despised our creatureliness and wanted to be our own deity. The real question now about our relationship to God is whether it remains broken or has been restored. Does our sin against God still separate us from Him, or have we been reconciled to Him? The brokenness continues, of course, if we ignore it. This is certainly the standard operating procedure for many. It seems that the easiest way to manage our broken relationship with God is by pretending God doesn't exist. The Bible tells us that atheism is foolishness. See Psalm 14, verse 1. But we might also add that atheism is a coping mechanism. Exclusive humanism, as it's been called, is humanity's move to make transcendence something we create, refusing to acknowledge any reality outside ourselves. This refusal to acknowledge God requires even scrubbing away every idea of God, or at least the ideas that might infringe upon our autonomous sovereignty. This is atheism at the functional level. It's an attempt to put the pain of our vertical relational brokenness out of sight and thus out of mind, hidden beneath the floor of our everyday lives. But like with the beating heart of Edgar Allan Poe's dark story, the sound of our crime gets louder and louder as our attempts to drown it out become more intense and normalized. This kind of willed ignorance is one way the brokenness remains. Another way the brokenness in our relationship with God remains is when we take it upon ourselves to be the solution. This is when we recognize the brokenness, but think it's up to us to solve the problem. We assume that the only way the chasm between God and us will be bridged is if we, the sinful offenders, move toward Him, hoping to impress Him by our religiosity and good works. We figure that maybe that will earn His favor and put things right. John Bunyan, the 17th century writer and pastor, learned how futile this is. When he first came under the conviction of his sin, biographer Faith Cook recounts that he fell under the spell of high church ritual. In his autobiography, he says he was overcome with a spirit of superstition, busied by all the things he must do to improve himself. And he had a decent run for a while, he admits, even scrupulously keeping the 10 Commandments and winning the respect of his neighbors, until he realized it didn't stick.